Hey guys, this is Kangaroothless, and I'm bringing you another StarCraft 2 commentary. This time it's going to be a Zerg versus Protoss on the map Shattered Temple. We see here in the name tab, it is going to be the red Zerg, Yes, spawning in the top right location, and his opponent for this match is going to be DarkWingDuck as the blue Protoss. Now let me say one thing about DarkWingDuck. It means that this guy is from my generation, which was an awesome growing up in the 90s generation, when 90s cartoons really reigned supreme as far as the cartoons go. From the 80s or aughts, whatever you want to call them. But yeah, you can say, oh, what about He-Man and what about, you know, like Ghostbusters cartoons? No, man, we had DarkWingDuck, we had X-Men, Spider-Man, the Batman series. We had some of the best cartoons growing up, hands down. Even some of the Nickelodeon shows like Rugrats or Doug, just very much a part of our lives, and for that I have a special place in my heart for DarkWingDuck. But this again will be a Zerg versus Protoss on Shakuras Plateau. I think this map is pretty friendly towards Zergs. There's a lot of wide open spaces here out in the middle for nice engagements, and allows for Zerg to really fight on what I would call Zerg favorite ground, where these wide open spaces. Protoss can sort of force engagements into certain chokes and make it more Protoss favored. But really, if Zerg catches the Protoss out of position, say out here or way out here in the middle, it catches Protoss at a disadvantage. So we see here that Yes has gone ahead and scouted that DarkWingDuck has spawned in the bottom left location. Sent out kind of an early probe around 9. He's actually going for early pull as well. So this will be what I would expect to maybe be some sort of Speedling expand, but there's no gas down, so I'm just guessing Zergling Queen expand. But I'm taking this gas, lower level Zergs, I'll tell you what it does for Protosses. A lot of lower level Protosses, this is going to be a Gold League match by the way, and a lot of lower level Protosses, when you take their gas like this, it almost says, hey Protoss, I dare you to 4-gate me. Because to 4-gate, all you need is really one gas. And you can get up a decent amount of Stalkers and Zealots and really put on the pressure to Zerg. So just my thoughts on that, and we do see sort of a late extractor coming down here. We do have enough for a Queen, and maybe some Zerglings, just to make sure that there are no shenanigans coming down at his natural. But instead we're having 2 more drones, a little bit more economic. We're going to kind of delay this hatchery. And I guess that's fine, just a difference of style, but what's really become popular, I guess, is more of a Speedling expand, or what I've been doing a lot is a 12 pull, which really punishes Protosses that go Forge Fast Expand, and then don't have the decency to throw down a cannon fast enough. You can get some Zerglings in their base and do some damage. So we do see the hatchery going down at the natural for Yes. And meanwhile we have Zealots picking away at this extractor. And I'm kind of intrigued here as to why DarkWingDuck did not go for a wall off. In my opinion, this is inviting a Roachling all-in, or even a Baneling bus. It's kind of scary. So I mean, against a 4-gate, if you do go some sort of hyper-aggressive Zerg style, and you're on 2 base, you'll way outlast the Protoss, and it'll be almost impossible for him to expand or put any pressure back on you. So I'm not sure if I like 4-gates all that much now that I'm in higher leagues, but lower leagues 4-gates are pretty cool. A lot of Zergs don't know how to deal with them. But as we see here, Yes is going to go ahead and throw down an early Roach Warren, as well as a Spine Crawler. This will keep you safe from 4-gates, guys. And really, you don't have to have a Roach Warren for 4-gates. I know that's going to sound sort of counterintuitive. You think, oh, but you know, what if they just go with like Mass Zealot? If you scout a 4-gate coming, as in you have Zerglings running around the map, being active, seeing he hasn't expanded or is trying to expand about this time, you should know that a 4-gate is on his way. The Zergling does come in here, and I want to see if he scouts this actually. Here we go. Did he scout all 4-gates? Yeah, he did. So, I mean, he knows a 4-gate's coming. He should immediately be throwing down another Spine whenever he can afford it. Just to keep himself safe, and that way he can feel a little bit more safe to drone up here and not be so reliant on making units. If you can drone up just a little bit more, let's look at the income tab. He's only at 19, and generally, 2 base, I mean, you want to get to something like 40. Maybe even 50, if you want to get your gases as well. But 40 is good for a very mineral-heavy build. 50 is better if you're going to get a lot of gas. And of course, you want to go up to like 60 or something if you want to expand soon afterwards. But Yes throwing down another Spine. His Overlords are sort of positioned here out front. You got to be careful about this. When these guys get sniped, you get supply locked, and more often than not, that loses you the game. Just getting supply locked to some early pressure. But it doesn't look like DarkWingDuck wants to do this. This is a pretty interesting idea he has here, going for Nexus after 4-gate. So I guess you can call it an eco 4-gate, but I don't know, man. I'm not a fan of the eco 4-gates, but Workgate research has completed. I'm going to go ahead and probably see some unit production here. Forge going down as well, so we can expect to see some upgrades coming out here shortly. Protoss has both gases, so he should be able to afford those upgrades. Meanwhile, an Overlord just for Yes, just kind of moseying on in here. I'm not really sure I agree with this timing. He scouted the 4 gateways, and so unless he thinks that his opponent is doing a fake 4 gate, which I'm not sure why you would do that. I mean, literally just send a Zergling up here and you can tell whether he has, you know, still has 4 gates or not. If he has this many units this early game and it's expanding, I mean, I'm pretty sure he went 4 gates. But Forge not being particularly useful here. Meanwhile, we have a decent count of Roaches and Zerglings here. Let's look at the units tab. It is 2 Roaches and 19 Zerglings, so 4 Zealots, 8 Stalkers, and a Sentry. And obviously, due to Zerg's macro capacities, he should be able to take out that force easy peasy if it wanders across the map, but that won't be the case. Queen laying some creep down here. I like this. I like actually against any Protoss or against Protoss, going for some sort of a 3 queen opener is a pretty easy way to get out that creep spread, and pretty much just ensure that your bases are not only connected, but you have that advantage of you know, unit movement. I'm having the hardest time finding words today, guys. But we see a layer on the way as well as another creep tumor, and meanwhile a Twilight Council going down for DarkWingDuck, so I wonder if he's going to go for some 2-base timing, maybe throw down a couple more gateways and go for a 7-gate. 7-gate's a pretty good way to go for Zerg that's rushing straight for Spire. If you hit the 7-gate, it's just, it kills a Spire build, unless they do something like what Liquid Xenu does, in which he throws down an Hydroden with the Spire, skips Roaches, goes Hydra Ling, if you go 7-gate. If you don't go 7-gate, then he just goes straight Mutiling and harasses you non-stop. And of course, Protosses have the hardest time in the world with that, so they've been going for more aggressive builds early on. And I can't fault them for that. It's a lot easier to apply pressure and then expand behind that than to just be defending until you can max out, but then Zerg's on like 10 bases. So I mean, I get it. Against mutilinging Zergs, I would just say apply some light pressure while expanding and get blink as fast as you can. It's honestly the best way to deal with Mutalisks without having to overcommit to a certain tech path. I mean, Blink Stalkers are good, you know, even late game anyways, so I mean, whereas Phoenixes, they're good kind of early to mid game, Blink Stalkers are of course very viable into the late game. So a little supply lock here, and full Nexus energy. Protosses, learn to use your Nexus energy, learn to use your Chrono Boost. I don't think he's actually gotten an upgrade on this Forge. Okay, he's gotten +1, but I would like to see more upgrades come out for DarkWingDuck. And I like here how Yes has his Sling's position at this tower, but he needs to take both towers. I mean, this will help fend off against some sort of Warp Prism harass, or if he's going Void Rays or something and decides to go over here and do a flank, you'll see that coming. So really make a conscious effort to grab both towers. But grabbing one is a nice little stepping stone. We do see some Overlords kind of spreading out here to possibly do some later scouting. I like that. But here we do. We have 3 more gateways going down, so this will be some sort of 7-gate with Robo, so I'm assuming that he'll go for, well, it looks like he already had an Observer. He probably won't go Immortals this round if he's going to go a 7-gate. It's really hard to afford Immortals and a 7-gate. And now a Fast Charge. Now, I'm not sure about the Fast Charge. I think that's gas that could be spent elsewhere, like maybe teching up to Colossi or Templar if he wanted to. Changeling has spawned in the base of DarkWingDuck. Meanwhile, let's look at Yes's base. It looks like he has 3 bases up and running pretty smoothly. Has these evolution chambers starting on the melee and carapace upgrades. And a Spire on the way, but here's a big deal I have is that he has so many minerals right now, he needs to be doing that on a macro hatch immediately. He also doesn't have this Glira Constitution, which helps you be more aggressive with your Roaches. So, yes, you can defend with slow Roaches, but it's much easier to defend and be aggressive with speed Roaches. But I mean, both players just macroing up for the time being. Another thing is always try to spend all of your larvae, and when you realize that you can't spend them because you're supply locked, make a couple of Overlords. Especially if you're going to be going for Roach builds, try to anticipate that you will become supply locked and make a couple of preparatory Overlords before spamming Roaches. So, yes, it's currently supply locked. I do like the fact that these 2 spines are down here, but they're not quite covering this base, which is what he really needs to cover. This is what's most prone to some sort of attack. Whereas this right here, there's already some creep here. Protoss will likely not try to run up in here and kill Zerg. if he's smarter, he'll probably go for this expansion. Which, the placement of this expansion, I mean, I get it, but in order to really defend that, you need a pretty good army. You might need some spines out front. You need some better creep spread than that. It's been, you know, Yes, it's been kind of lacking on the creep spread this game. So here we go. Just now, another creep tumor and 36 Zerglings on the way. This is what happens when you have so many minerals and you can't really spend them. Now, a Spire is up, right? And here we go with Glare Reconstitution. And Zerg is moving out without Glare Reconstitution finishing. This is very, very dangerous, Zergs. If he has Colossi and has enough sentries, he can force field off units and then just kill all of them and go and counterattack and kill you. But fortunately, for Yes, his opponent did not go for that, and this is actually not a very good angle here for Yes, but in fact he blinked into that, so now his roaches are going to be able to do more damage, Yes's roaches. And this actually will be a fair trade for Yes, when it could have been a very unfair trade for both players, or more for Yes. Yes could have just gotten demolished there. But again, note, there weren't that many sentries, he couldn't cordon off the Zerglings. He's spending a lot of that gas on, I don't know what, he could be spending it on something. But I mean, these roaches are going to be enough to overpower these stalkers. DarkWingDuck will have to wait for another warp in, and dear God, use your Chrono Boost. Use your Chrono Boost. Yeesh. Alright, attacking into chokes, always a bad idea, especially if you're outnumbered. So the roaches will try to make a retreat, but again, they're so slow. These stalkers should be able to pick them off. Now, DarkWingDuck is retreating here. I don't agree with that. He could actually place them out here a little bit more, and I mean, really, if you have some sentries or smart building placement, you shouldn't have to worry that much about run-bys. But Roach is picking off 2 pylons. They do have that Glare Constitution, so they'll be a little bit more speedy with getting away, hitting it and quitting it. And again, I don't think there's much going on this forge. I mean, DarkWingDuck does have 1-1, but he could be going for a 2-2 about right now. He has the gas to afford it. It might have to put a damper on that Colossi production, so if he's going for a very Colossus-heavy unit composition, I mean, that would make sense. Now, this is way too many roaches and lings, so DarkWingDuck is going to have to forfeit this expansion. And this is sort of the problem I saw with that engagement. I thought he had a pretty good engagement there. He just sort of blinked in for no apparent reason. And this is an example of a bad engagement, Zergs. Your opponent has even a Colossi or just even more units than you, and you're trying to push up into a ramp. It's not really going to matter what your micro does. I mean, you're just going to lose way too many units, and the Protoss is going to retain so much of theirs. So, a really bad trade there for Yes, losing a lot of units. And Yes is going to retreat with the Zerglings, now throwing down an infestation pit. Still hasn't done anything with the Spire. He's seen Colossi and hasn't done anything with the Spire. Usually when I see a Robo build, I say, yes, Mutalisks. And I just spam Mutalisks, and then it's nearly impossible for the Protoss to really catch them. I mean, he'll have to keep some of these Stalkers in different places. He doesn't have any cannons in his mineral line. He can pick off so many of these workers and make it really hard for Protoss to get any sort of economic advantage. As you can see here, Protoss is behind in supply, and he's so far down on his minerals and gas. So he's really strapped for cash right now. He can afford another. He can't afford another warp in, even though he has the potential to warp in. So this is sort of what happens when Protosses do not expand in time, and they lose their Nexi too many times and lose too many army units. So really with Protoss, you want to, you know, protect your units. This right here is dangerous, by the way, especially if you've seen a large Ling build, but as long as you have your observers out here front, it's fine to do your army like this. Ling run-bys are less likely. He does have some Stalkers up here. Finally warping in some sentries. I feel like this is a little bit too late in the game to be warping into sentries, but better late than never. I would have liked these sentries to have been a little bit earlier, because force fielding is so painful. When a Zerg gets force fielded correctly, it's just the hardest to deal with. So meanwhile, Yes is going for a hive, and just look at his minerals and gas right now. I mean, his supply is at 139 out of 192, and he's not expanding, and he's not making. He's just going for a very roach-centric build here. So I feel like getting all these extra gases might come back to hurt him, but that will allow him to get into hive tech. But I'm just not sure that's the correct build to do that. Not getting any more upgrades really for this Mass Roach army. That's another mistake that I think that Yes is making. If he's going to commit to one tech path and use another to transition, like say Roaches to transition into some sort of hive play when melee and armor really come into play, then he should be really spamming out those melee and armor upgrades. But if he's going to go for this many Roaches and be consistent with his Roach production, he needs to start on that Roach upgrades as well, on that missile attack. So a little bit of a missed rally point here for Yes, keeping some drones over here at the main, and we've seen Ultralisk Cavern. Now, I want to caution Zergs out there about Ultralisks. I think Ultralisks can be very, very, very powerful units. In fact, they're probably the strongest unit in the game, just pound for pound. But unfortunately, their issue with Protoss, especially with Protoss that's going for a lot of Blink Stalkers, is unless you can get some good fungals off or the Protoss doesn't know how to blink or micro, it's just going to be very hard for the Zerg to ever catch any of those Blink Stalkers. And of course, you have Colossi in the back firing down. If the Protoss scouts that you're going for Ultralisk, he will get out a couple of Immortals to help out with that engagement as well. And that becomes problematic. I mean, we already have a Robo down as well, so going for Ultras is risky. But it's not a bad mood. It's just risky. So again, no drone rally with these drones. We do have a third on the way, which would have been a fourth, but that base got sniped. Again, what I said about the spine crawlers here would have really helped out, and especially having a Zergling at this watchtower, that push wouldn't have come as easily. I'm pretty sure that Zerg could have set up a nice arc here with some roaches, repositioned some spines, and then if the Protoss had tried a counterattack in here, he would have had a couple of these spines here as well as these roaches. But not terrible creep spread from the Zerg. Again, this is gold, so we're not expecting the best creep spread in the world. But really like him to be a little bit more active with these creep tumors, be a little bit more happy and a little bit more, well, a little bit more expansion happy. So I think the Zerg is playing a little bit too timid here. Now this little roach movement here kind of makes sense, but when you see this many stalkers and these cannons, I mean, if you're going to get trapped like this, you might as well pick off as many of these stalkers as you can. So really try to focus fire whatever it is you can and kill off as much as you can, because you're already going to lose these units. But not very good at focus firing here, and if Protoss was smart at this point, he would, I mean, he's taking expansion here, but I would say get a Warp Prism and start harassing these other expansions. And that makes it a lot easier than having to, say, send your entire army over here, clear all this out, and then start taking out expansions. The easiest way to kill Zergs late game is to start taking out their expansions. And that's really what you do to put them in a world of hurt. So Protoss are complaining about the Death Ball. The more expansions that you deny the Zerg, the less likely he is to get that Death Ball up super fast. So just a little word of caution. I mean, and Terrans know this, and I just think that Protosses haven't been using drops as much as they should. This is a bit ill-advised. Running in with roaches without sending like a scouting Zergling or something. I know I'm bad about this myself, but send in a scouting Zergling, just see what's there to greet you, and if it's too much, if it's too good at positioning, then you can always turn around. But he did burn some supply that allowed him to get out a couple of Ultralisks, so not a bad trade. He does have that chitinous plating finish now, and he is starting on +1 missile attacks and +3 carapace. And again, the problem with this expansion, he didn't have any spines here. He's not going to be able to really save it. I mean, he's going to kill off all these units, but really DarkWingDuck at this point can just macro up all day. He's going to be on 4 base. He's going to be able to get up whatever gas he wants to at this point. And if he transferred these probes over to this expansion, he'd be in a really good spot here, actually. He could just run around, harass Zerg all day. And if he could get some harassment up on this base as well and delay mining, eventually Zerg would run out of bank. And that's just what happens. You have to survive the waves of Zerg, and then you're fine. And so I do like that Protoss has taken this expansion. I just wish that he would, you know, maybe transfer a couple of drones. Now, Yes is doing a pretty smart thing right here, making some Overseers. And this is in case your opponent goes for a Dark Templar, or you just want to do something like contaminate a Robo or something. And it's just very, very useful. What also helps in that situation is getting that speed. But this is not my idea of the best engagement here, but these Colossi are not being microed at all. Force fields don't work against these Ultralisks, and no blinking going on here for DarkWingDuck. So unfortunately, a lot of these units are going to get picked off by the Ultralisks. Now you do want to keep your Ultralisks out front so they can do a lot of heavy damage, a lot of splash damage to these Stalkers. The Roach is doing some decent damage here. We have 9 more Ultralisks on the way. But as well, you want to keep up with your injects. Once the battle is about this point, when you're like, okay, I either win or lose, it doesn't really matter. This is when you go back, hit your injects, get whatever upgrades you need to get, and just make units. Because the Zerg, whenever you can keep those consistent waves coming, it is so hard for Protosses to deal with that. So Ultralisk getting picked off there, but that's a very small army from from DarkWingDuck. I mean, I just feel like this is an issue right here. And as well, when you're on 3 or 4 bases, throw down more gateways. I mean, if he's on about 7 gates right now, imagine how fast he'd be able to remax with a 10 gate army or 13 gate army. That would just be so many units there. I'm not really sure, again, why he's making Zealots. That doesn't make sense. Stalkers would be probably a much better investment here, but the game's pretty much already won. Zerg has this way too much tier 3, and Protoss was not able to save a lot of his tier 3, so a lot of units just going down here needlessly. These Stalkers not being microed. This base is forfeit, and I mean, at this point, Zerg is going to grab another base. Zerg can expand wherever he likes, and can just kind of push in an A move at this point. So, game's pretty much over. What I think DarkWingDuck could have done better with this macro is, of course, move over these probes, don't go for a 4-gate expand. He did a decent job getting all the correct buildings, but again, these upgrades are really behind. He's only at 1-1. The Zerg is just way far ahead of him in those regards. 3-3 Stalkers are pretty disgusting, as are 3-3 Colossi. And as well, I mean, he just didn't throw down enough gateways, and I mean, could have been able to remax a lot easier. There's also that first engagement there where he had a really good concave right out here in the middle. A really good concave. I mean, Zerglings are kind of trapped in this little box as Roaches were kind of boxed out here. And the Zealots were taking a lot of damage, and the Stalkers were up back here shooting away at the Zerglings. But then he blinks in, and I think that was the biggest mistake that Darkwing made that entire affair. So anyways, this game's pretty much over. I'm just going to kind of fast forward from here. We do have some Dark Templar being spawned into the base. But I mean, as long as you keep your Overseers with your army, you should be fine. So the DT's just trying to pick off whatever they can. Now they're going to run back and attempt to do some sort of harass, but I mean, it's GG at this point. There's really nothing that DarkWingDuck can do at this point to come back. So Zerg's meanwhile just looking for an expansion. He doesn't see any. He should immediately assume that's either one of these or one of these. So, I mean, that does it for the game. I mean, there's not much. I mean, yeah, you can throw down 2 gateways, but I'm not sure how you think you're going to survive with only 180 minerals on income and still just refusing to get minerals and going for straight gas. So the tier 3 army is going to roll in here and kill a lot of things, and DarkWingDuck will give the GG, as will Yes. And I want to point out some criticism here as well for Yes. I mean, of course, with the Spine Crawlers placement, the early Roaches, and not focusing a lot on upgrades early on. But this is an upgrade that you always need to get when you get Hive. I mean, if you're going to straight Roaches, maybe not so much, but I mean, it's still not a bad upgrade to get. It's basically free attack for 200 gas, which, I mean, yes, it doesn't make sense. Well, it costs 200 gas, but your attack becomes so much more powerful with your Zerglings. It's incredible. Alright, so guys, that'll do it for the cast. I have been your host as always, Kangaruthless. Be sure to rate, subscribe, comment, and favorite. And again, if you're a lower league player and you want your game casted, I'll be more than happy to do that for you. Just send the replay to kangaruthless@gmail.com. As well as if you're a higher league player out there and you had a really good game, or you have a new strategy that you want to introduce out there to the world, send your replays my way and give me some foresight as to how it works. And that'll do it all for this cast, so I will see you guys next time. Peace.